Hey there, YouTube friends. Mass Bandit here with another episode of BroAcres. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I always do appreciate it. We are getting really close to Halloween. It is the 27th of the day I'm recording this. This should come out on the 28th. That gives us only 3 more days until Halloween. I'm hopeful that we can get one more episode in before Halloween. And then you can hopefully expect an actual release video on Halloween. That's kind of what I'm going for. We'll see if that happens. If not, then it'll be November 1st. If we can't get it done on the 31st, it'll be out on the 1st. So, anyway, we are going to work on the idea of a haunted house today without actually making a haunted house. I've seen a lot of comments about, you should make a haunted house, you should make a haunted scare maze, you should make a haunted attraction, you should do that. Yeah, I probably should have. The issue here is that I just did a whole spooky dark ride for Surfside, and I remember that took 2 full episodes to get done between the facade and the actual interior, and I didn't even record all of it, and I don't, okay, to be frank, I don't have, if I want this to even be remotely close to finished on the 31st, I'm not going to do an interior. And I don't really want to, because I just did a spooky interior a couple months ago. So I know, if I was thinking ahead, if I was planning ahead better, I probably wouldn't have done the dark ride for Surfside. And I would have done a dark interior, a spooky interior for this. But, oh well, them's the breaks. What are you going to do? So instead, we're going to try and make this creepy barn-looking thing. Except it's not really a barn. It's clear it's not a barn. My story here, the story for this is that it was actually built for the fall festival. It's not a retrofitted barn or stable or anything like that. It was actually built for, once it became popular enough, they sunk some money into making this a permanent structure for fall. And it is a walk-through scary attraction. And that's what the little cloth there, the curtains are supposed to be. It's supposed to be like those black, I know them in meat lockers, the plastic black things that you walk through to blackout shades, I guess. So we're adding a little queue here. So that's what that is. And those are on either side, and entrance and exit. And other than that, it's just about making the building look kind of spooky, but I also wanted it to kind of look cheap. I didn't want it to be too crazy, so it's a little modest. And that's kind of intentional. I wanted it to be kind of modest looking. I didn't want it to be so over the top. It's actually, I think, less themed on the outside than the Spooky Manor was, Spoopy Manor, and I kind of like that better. I like the idea that they just put what they need to sell the idea that it's haunted, and then all the scares, all the cheap scares are inside. And so what you'd probably, I'm thinking back to the one I had, the one I went to growing up, is there would be these windows, and as you'd walk by, they'd be activated, and something would pop into the window, light up, and scare you. And they had some scenes with animatronics, and they didn't correlate at all. They were just totally random and totally cheap. And half the time, the animatronics didn't even work, or the sound was off, or it was all bizarre. So I have to say, I love watching the spider in in time lapse. The quick step in spider. I love it. But I thought that would be a great addition, is to have this giant spider. Maybe it's, I don't know what it would be to be light enough to sit on the roof. But I figured that if they were going to go for it, they would have something like that. And the skeleton hanging from the little hay bale loft, I think that helps add the rustic-y kind of thing. And then we needed a good old graveyard. So we used the graveyard, the stone, what are they called? Headstones and the gravestones. And we tilt them and make them look a little more worn in. I don't know. English. Learn it. That graveyard is not complete. Don't worry if you're that's pretty lame. I actually went ahead and have an animatronic ghost. I figured that they would probably have a couple animatronics outside to lure you in. And so just 2, it's just the ghost, and then you'll see in a second we'll do another one. All the crows that you see me placing down in this park are supposed to be actual crows, not animatronic crows. That's why I left them all moving. So we hang a couple bats up, really spoopy. It's just totally terrifying. So, but you really can't have a fall festival without a scary something or other. So stealing the hay bale from the gazebo. Oh, I still haven't put that on the workshop. I need to do that. The gazebo, stole the hay bale from there and put it over here to try and add some cohesion, and it was nice enough to use there. Figured I'd use it here too. And looking for some trees. I'm surprised there's no, well, not ridiculous spooky trees like that. I guess you have to use the dead trees, which are, I guess, more western. But they work. They worked well enough. Yeah, so it's really kind of self-explanatory. The one thing is kind of dull. Like I intentionally weathered the wood. I made it look like it had been sitting around for a long time. I might have gone a little over the top with it. But then at the same time, the pumpkins, the orange pumpkins, and what little color we do have really does kind of pop. So I kind of like it. So now that I'm talking through it here with you, I think we're just going to keep it the way it is. Got those jack-o'-lantern. I love those little jack-o'-lantern string lights. I think they're super cool. I put these pumpkins up here, and then I asked my wife, what do you think? And she goes, everything's great, but those pumpkins up there are stupid. Why would they spend all that money to put pumpkins up on the roof? I was like, oh, that's a good point. I'm going to take them off. So props to her for doing that, for suggesting that. So, and then maybe they ran to Party City, and they got the bag of bones for $9.99, because, you know, who doesn't have a good bag of bones for $9.99? And they put them in the ground in front of some of the gravestones, in front of some tombstones, and to make it look a little more spooky. And here's that second animatronic we were talking about. We're going to have a little zombie popping out of the grave there. Ooh, so spooky. Terrifying. I know, you're scared. I know. Little cut here. Didn't realize I wasn't recording. I added some fencing and also did some terrain work to kind of make it fit in. This might be the lamest sign I've ever put in, but I like it. Like, I like how it's like haunted barn over here. In case you didn't know that's what it was. Like, it's so clearly haunted barn. You don't even have to worry. So, and then to flesh the area out a little bit, we're going to add some more food options on this side. And it actually gave me a good opportunity to use the new DLC pack. I haven't used anything from the DLC until building in this. And so we're actually going to use the, what's the rib joint? Just Ribbon or whatever it is. And I like the art style of that one quite a bit. I think it works quite well. So we make a Just Ribbon. And it's a super simple, sorry, there's an airplane going overhead and the windows are open. It's finally cool enough to open the windows here in Houston. Yay! It's like low 80s during the day and then it drops into the 50s at night. It is glorious. Low humidity. This is why we live in Houston for like these 6 weeks before it gets cold and damp. It's great. And we get 6 more weeks after winter. And the rest of it's just kind of whatever. But anyway, have some Just Ribbon here for you. And I love they did do a really good job with the brands. I love them. I still think they should have just gone with 4 or 5 instead of 10, and then provided full themes for 4 or 5 as opposed to half-baked themes for 10. But hey, whatever. What do I know? I'm just a guy that plays the game. But sorry, I took a sip of beverage there. But I like how simple it is, and it fits. Like, the nice thing is I understand why some of the, now that I've played with it a little bit, I actually kind of understand why some of the scenery sets are not necessarily all that heavy-duty part-wise. You can use a lot of the existing wall pieces to complement the new stuff. And I know that's what they were going after, but still, it'd be nice to have a bunch more pieces for each of these themes. Anyway, after I was doing this, I actually took a break and watched Jonty's newest video, his Pinewood Hills, his Spooky Manor. And he was actually doing a graveyard in his. And I went ahead and he did a really nice job of throwing in some scrub and some bush to really kind of fill in that graveyard. And I realized that's what mine was missing. So once I watched his video, I promptly jumped in and stole what he was doing. So, but it's okay because he built a pumpkin patch in his because of BroAcres. So it's all even, right? Even Stevens. No, it's an awesome project. I'm so glad to see him back in Planet Coaster. It's been a while. Glad to see him back making videos again. I love these Bavarian walls. I wish we had more than 4 height versions of them all. They're really cool. Love the details. Saves you a lot of pieces not having to do all that wood detail yourself. So kudos to Planet Coaster for that. But man, what I wouldn't have done for like a 2 height variant. Oh, that would have been great. But oh well. Love the actually, like, my favorite part is the Goofy Bratwurst sign. I love that Goofy Bratwurst sign. I think it's really cool. So yeah, I like I said, I don't have any problem with the brands. I think they're fantastic. So, and anyway, this was a really nice way to round out the area. And then I figured we needed one more thing over here after we finish up these stalls, and that was actually going to be yet another flat. So we are going to go ahead. We're going to do one more flat, and I really kind of pondered which one I wanted for a while, and tried a whole bunch of different ones. Before we get there, though, we're going to start shoring up some of the edge of the pond. Ha ha ha, shoring up. That was unintentional, but I'll take it. Sorry. I had this weird, I think I mentioned it in one of the other episodes, I have this weird thing where the ground is clearly not, like, is above water level, and yet there's, like, this infinitesimally small, like, skin of water. It's really weird. So I actually have to go over a large chunk of the terrain with the pull brush set at, like, 10%, and just to get the water back in the pond. It's really weird. It looks like the pond had flooded. I don't get why. And I'm finally getting back to coloring the terrain here. Some of you mentioned that it looked a little tiled, and I agree. So jump back in, remembered that was on the to-do list, so we did that. And just kind of jumping all over the place here after we built the 2 restaurants, trying to get some more of the little things done. Decided we needed an enter sign for the haunted maze, so you knew exactly where to queue up for it, and so it was there. Decided to change the font. I like that font. That's a font I don't use very often. I thought it fit well in a spooky park. So tried the I call it the Twister. It's not what it's called, but tried that new vintage flat, and it still felt too big. It felt too big. Thought about some others and landed on the this one, the Coriolis, I think it's called. I like this flat a lot. I think it's one of my favorite flats because of its fairly small footprint and pretty much lack of theming. And it totally looks like a traveling ride. It fits quite well with the style we have going on already. So I did not add a generator to this one yet. I do still plan to do that, especially with the zipper, the kickflip. That'll probably be in the next episode. I'm thinking the last episode here, episode 9, before release, will be all those details, like the generators and the this and shoring up. Like, there are some buildings I think that still are missing some trim, or might even be missing a whole wall. Because the way I tend to build is I tend to build like facades from peep view, and I leave the back naked, and then I go back in at the end and fill in all the buildings. It's just how I've always done it. And maybe if I didn't do that, I wouldn't get so burnt out at the end of a series. Because then there's, like I said, nothing, as I've mentioned in the past, when you get to the end of a series, there's nothing fun left to do. Except when you've only been working on it for a month like this, there's still plenty we could do. And speaking of that, if there was only one more thing we could add, what would it be? Like, in the comments, tell me, what if you could only have one more thing in here, in this fall festival, what would you want to see? And no promises that I will take your suggestion, but I'm open to ideas, because need something else. I'm thinking like a pile of dirt, or like a hay slide, or like, because we've got this whole area behind the pond. We're probably not going to use the whole thing, but like behind the bandstand, behind the gazebo, we can maybe put in some more of those really low budget attractions. You know, I wanted to do a petting zoo, but I don't really want to spend the time troubleshooting a bunch of animals. Although I did get some animals off the workshop, I might check them out. If they're decently within scale, maybe we'll make a petting zoo. I don't know. So once the flat ride is in place, it's all about making this area look a little bit more complete, because this is pretty much going to be the border of the fall festival. So we're going to put some simple some fencing in, and we're going to give this a nice little sign full of pumpkins, because it is, after all, Pumpkinpalooza. So I like the spiders too. Throw some spiders in there, and then as soon as I put the spiders in, it's like, oh, I got the perfect name. We're going to call this Tarantula. So I actually didn't even realize that those viney things totally are pumpkin vines. Like, that's perfect. And then the hatchet and the pumpkin, just a little extra touch. So simple sign for this ride, a real simple sign, and we'll put the done stamp on this one. So, like I said, after that, it's just fleshing out the area, making it look more complete. Someone mentioned that the fencing for the playground, like, kids could just wander into the woods. I'll probably throw some fencing back there, don't worry. And also, a bunch of you were so concerned about the kids impaling themselves on the picket fencing. Like, really? That live and let live. Survival of the fittest. Here at BroAcres, we encourage children to learn to survive. So, anyway, I think I'm going to keep it. I mean, I don't know. I don't really want to replace it all. It's a kind of a pain in the butt. I don't really want to do it, just to be honest with you. So that's actually going to just about do it for this episode. So we're getting close to the end here. Again, tell me one thing you'd like to see, and I will take it into consideration. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit that like button. And if you are new or haven't yet, please consider subscribing so you don't miss anything fun on the channel. With that, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever, and I will see you for the next episode of BroAcres. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.